Hey, Michael Church, Crawl Space Ninja. I'm here with Dusty Jameson of Inspector Clouseau, and he's a home inspector of 17 years. And today, we're going to talk about internal waterproofing systems versus external waterproofing systems, the pros and cons of each, whether you have a basement or a crawl space. Stay tuned. So if you're new to Crawl Space Ninja, we talk about everything related to basement waterproofing, crawl space encapsulation, and indoor air quality. We hope you'll subscribe to our channel, ring that notifications bell, and follow us on Facebook. Okay, Dusty, we may have some butt heads on this one a little bit, but what I wanted to talk to our viewers about and what you wanted to talk to our viewers about is the exterior approach to waterproofing versus the interior approach. So take the floor, tell people what you're seeing, and all that kind of stuff, and make some recommendations how they can fix water intrusion problems in their basements and their crawl spaces if they're taking on water after a heavy rain.
Yeah, so basically I tend to start on the outside, whether it's a crawl space or a basement. There's three things you can do on top of the ground that you can see without disturbing any soil: gutters, gutter downspouts, and drainage. Those are the key things. There are numerous times that I've went into a house and you see one corner of a basement or a crawl space that's heavily saturated with moisture. You go directly outside of that and you see a downspout that's just dumping straight into the dirt. It's an easy solution to that one. Extend that downspout away. That will generally dry that out. Now, it gets a little bit more intense when you start talking about, well, the gutters are good, our downspouts are extended away, the drainage is appropriate, it's moving water away. If you're still ending up with water there inside of the house, that's where you have to make the decision of internal versus external.
Right, right. And what you mean by internal versus external is digging out the outside of the foundation wall down to the footer drain.
Yep.
And replacing or repairing that footer drain and perhaps putting a membrane on the foundation wall,
right? Whether
it's a vapor barrier or a rubberized membrane or something like that, right?
Right.
Versus an internal, which is also a French drain,
yep,
with vapor barrier, or if it's a basement, perhaps below the slab or something.
Yeah.
When I first got started in waterproofing, I thought exterior waterproofing was the way to go until I did my first job. Okay, and then what I realized is that especially in the South, as soon as you start digging, for some reason, rain comes. Okay, and then you've got this muddy mess, and it could take a long time for that soil to dry out. I don't know if you've ever tried to get clay off of a spade before. But wet clay is ridiculous, okay? Plus you've got different OSHA things that you have to deal with. If you've got a 12-foot basement, for every, I think it's 4 feet you go down, you got to be 4 feet out to keep that soil from collapsing on you. You got to almost do a stair-step kind of process. So if this is something you're looking to do as a DIYer, make sure that you take those steps to protect yourself if you're doing it from the outside.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The other thing that we see, especially in older neighborhoods, is it's kind of hard to get that footer drain to daylight.
Yes. Another thing that you have to work around in older neighborhoods is vegetation growth. You may have trees that started out small and now all of a sudden they're very large. A 50, 60-year-old tree is going to have an elaborate root system.
Exactly.
You could also have to work around walkways, driveways, patios, deck structures. There are all kinds of obstacles that will be either in the front or back of a house where you're having to work around that to get underneath it to reapply that waterproofing.
That's right. We've even had some situations where we had to get an HVAC contractor to move the HVAC system, and you're without HVAC for a while, right? If you got a generator outside or different things.
Throw a pool in there.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So that's why the exterior waterproofing isn't as popular as the interior. There are a lot of companies out there that do it. We have chosen not to go that route, because for us, it's about getting the job done on the inside. And realistically, it shouldn't even be called interior waterproofing. We call it interior water management.
Yes.
Because the water's still coming in.
Right.
We're just addressing it as it comes in, whether it's through the basement or the crawl space foundation wall.
Right.
Right. So downspouts are great though. So let's talk about downspout extensions. You mentioned checking the gutters. I have seen homeowners that will not look up and look at their gutters. What do you find in gutters that's causing big issues?
Whether it just be vegetation that grows over the house, dropping leaves into the gutters, clogging them up, or you could have gutters. A lot of times, if you step back and look at a house, and if you've got an elaborate roof line that may converge into roof valleys, you have large concentrations of water going to small sections of guttering. And so all of a sudden you end up with overflow.
That's right.
So the easy thing, you said look up. Yes, you want to look up and understand where the water is moving around the house. The other thing is to look down right against the foundation wall on the outside. If the gutters are overflowing, you're going to see a line. That's where the gutters dump over and you'll see the soil splashed around.
That's right. And you also want to be careful who you hire to do those downspout extensions, because the house that we moved into recently, we had to redo the downspout extension because they did not connect the drain pipe. It was actually draining in the dirt. Like the water was coming off the roof, going into the gutter, and then hitting soil and not able to run off away from the foundation. So you got to make sure that you check these things before they cover it back up, because you don't know if it works. And some of the things you can do is run hose pipe up in there and make sure it goes off the daylight and different things like that. Right?
Yeah, and the same thing around the downspouts. When they go into the dirt, a lot of times if they're clogged up, they're going to backflow around that connection. So you may see either shingle aggregate or you'll see soil that's eroded around that downspout, and you'll know that it's dumping over. Go outside when it rains. You'll see what's working and what's not.
NDS makes a very interesting product where it's kind of like a well that has it's almost like a coffee filter in it. So that way the downspout can drain into that box. And then all the leaves and the granules from the roof and all that are caught by that coffee filter, so it doesn't clog the underground part of your downspout. So I'll see if I can find that and put a link to one of those down below too. So let's talk about interior water management or interior waterproofing, mainly about basements. So let's get into basements. One of the things that we find is that a lot of people, normally they take water at the corners first, which may go along with your downspouts.
Correct.
Okay, so let's say that they've installed a French drain or a curtain drain outside. They've extended their downspouts and made sure that the soil was sloped away from the home properly, but they're still taking on water in their basement. What are some of those things that they can do to improve that or to fix that water still coming in?
That's where you get into the conversation of digging down to do the exterior waterproofing system or go inside to do the water management system. I tend to try to keep the water out if at all possible, but ultimately internal waterproofing management systems, they work. I like them. I just don't want it to be our first line of defense. I would prefer to do what we could on the outside with downspouts, gutters, and drainage. And if that doesn't work, then take a step inside and you can put in the internal water management system.
One of the first homes that you and I inspected together was a home that I was looking at a few years back. It had an interior basement waterproofing system, but we still found moisture. Coming, and it wasn't like standing water. We had to use our meters, and we determined that the baseboard was wetter on the part that wasn't water managed versus the side that was. So that can also be an indication of you're still taking on moisture. So we always recommend a full interior perimeter trench. You don't see that a lot though, do you?
Don't see it a lot. Generally, we will see one wall, maybe two walls, and then of course you have the drainage system and the sump pump. But most times you're not going to see all four walls. No.
That's right. And then plus a vapor barrier going up the foundation wall is also going to help control that moisture too. So one other thing, that if you have a basement, there's a good chance, depending on what part of the country that you live in, that you might have a radon problem. You've done a lot of research on, you said you've sifted through some 100-page article by the EPA. So share with our viewers one of the things that might be an alternative to a dehumidifier that a homeowner can do if they have a basement that's maybe moist or damp.
Yeah, it actually will integrate very, very well with an interior water management system because it integrates with the drainage and the sump pump. What we're getting at is that you install a radon mitigation system, a sub-slab depressurization system. It's in essence a pipe that goes into the concrete, gets into the gravel base, and then you create suction on that pipe by installing a fan. Existing homes have that pipe already in place, or you can retrofit it and install that and put everything in place. But basically you're creating airflow below the slab that will also pull from, if you have a water management system, it will pull around that drain tile, drying out the footing, drying out the slab underneath, basically taking the moisture and the radon out before it even gets into the house.
And you said that there was it 15 gallons a day is what they found that these things are removing?
Yeah, so they tested 3 houses in Pennsylvania. This was back in 2008 is when the paper came out. But they tested 3 houses in Pennsylvania. One house pulled 19 gallons of water a day from the foundation with a sub-slab depressurization system.
Wow, that's amazing. So, and like you mentioned, you can also install that radon fan directly into that sump pump pit.
Yep.
For that interior waterproofing system.
Correct.
So we actually covered 2 topics this video. We covered interior versus exterior waterproofing, and if you have a humidity issue in your basement, what is an alternative to a dehumidifier, right? Well, Dusty, I appreciate you coming in and sharing with our viewers all your wonderful knowledge that you see from the home inspection side of everything. And please tell everybody real quick how to find a good home inspector. What should they be looking for?
Call around if you're getting a home inspector. You want to talk to the company that you're trying to hire, but basically you want to look for experience is what I would suggest. Experience is generally the main indicator that we see. If you have a lot of experience, you've gained a lot of knowledge about all of these systems. Whereas on the front end, there's some intelligent guys on the front end too. Don't want to down them, but generally speaking, the guys with more experience are going to have a broader knowledge base and be able to talk through situations a little easier.
Very good. Well, I'm Michael Church with Crawl Space Ninja here with Dusty with Inspector Clouseau Home Inspections. We hope you make it a happy and blessed day. We'll see you later.